Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode on Laid Back the Atarazinga podcast. Our topic for this week is importance of data and statistics in football and science communication. Our guest for today is a scientist who has expertise in data science and analysis. Welcome, Dr. Tunde.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, my brother.
Yeah, how's the family? How's everything going?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. And yours too. Good to see you. Good to have you. Good to have me on your podcast. This
Thank
is
you.
my first podcast ever. So, yeah, to having fun here.
Yeah, but thank you so much for honoring the invitation, and hopefully you have a good time on the show.
Sure.
Yeah, so let's get into it. So let's start with your love and interest for data and football. How did this start? Like, what's your earliest memory as a football fan?
That dates back many years. I remembered first through my dad. He's a keen football watcher. He's a keen football lover as well. I remember most of the time when we are at home, he's always following the Nigerian football team. Then we don't have so many popular football leagues, in Nigeria then. But I just followed. I just saw the interest he had in watching football every time. I'm always with him, and from there I started knowing players. I know names of old players, and because when I was in primary school, then I used to play for the school team. So well, this is something I like playing. I like doing. I was enjoying myself. I'm always part of the football team, the first 11. And that took me to secondary school, university, still playing actively, and so many places that I've been to, growing up in Lagos. So yeah, that piqued my interest. I followed the Super Eagles as the Green Eagles, Super Eagles, before they changed the name to Super Eagles. So yeah, I have been following since then.
Yeah, but you mentioned that you played in your primary school, but you're still a wonderful footballer anyway.
Yes, yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, is there any team you and your dad supported back in the day?
My dad didn't play football himself. I know he didn't have any particular team. But when it comes to watching Nigerian national team, especially the then Green Eagles, so he knows most of the players. He watched them, and that was all about him anyway. So it's just a case of once Nigeria is playing, you always see him on the TV, and I used to watch along with him and discuss the tactics, discuss the players, and they're defending well and they're not defending well, or the attack is poor. He's always having comments around things that ordinarily you would have thought, what's this man talking about? Yeah, so that's piqued my interest, and since then I've always been interested in watching football. When I had the time on my own to start doing the same.
Yeah,
so it's always been there from that time.
Oh, nice. But now we're going to look into data and statistics. If I'm being honest, I'm being honest right here. Maybe because I play football and I watch a lot of football, I don't really like data and statistics in football.
Okay.
For some reason, I feel it has changed the way we look at football. Initially, I felt, but some data scientists will prove me wrong. But the point I'm trying to make is, I felt like I could tell, like for example, when we play football, if you see a good play, you can tell by just looking at the person. Your eyes actually can tell you whether somebody's good or not.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but now data science has changed everything, the way we look at football. So how important do you think data and statistics is to football?
Yeah, that's good. You're right. When the data and analytics or whatever it wasn't there back then. And people, and like most fans, they just want to enjoy the game. But if we look at football or sports generally over the last how many years, we will see that the trend has changed.
Yeah,
a lot of players' performance, even fan engagement, for instance, has changed over the years, and is coming as a result of the enlightenment. And the data, the football club, the sports club, they're having to analyze about players, about fans, and a lot of things have generated interest over the years based on the number of data available, and the expertise have also changed. There's quite a lot of knowledge about insight into data,
Yeah.
ready for your opponents. You want to know how you can get some advantage over that. And this is where data and analytics generally has played a very important role in sports, especially in football.
Yeah.
You talk about performance as an example.
Yeah.
You analyze the performance of your players based on the data you collect from them. You know what their strength is, their level, their endurance, and you need data to do all of this. Unlike in the past when I used to play football, you just get injured. You see, you do well this week, next week you're not there. So if those things were being in place over during that time, maybe with the analytics, with the level of data and knowledge now, one would have thought, oh, this is what is missing. You need to rest, you need to do some other things. And yeah, like I said, player performance is important. Then when you talk about tactics, most coaches, of course, would like to know whether they're using 4-4-2 or for whatever formation they have.
Yeah.
Against teams, and they look back historically. I've played 4-4-2 against this team. I've gotten a draw.
Yeah.
Why not change it? Why not use some other things? And you put that into perspective with the players you have when the team are down. So yeah, you want to gain advantage in terms of tactics, and also what players' performance. When you take players' performance with recovery as well. So how long will an injury last? For this player, for them to rest. They've had this injury before. What's the trigger for them? And quite a number of things you can think about. And you also look at even bringing players into clubs.
Yeah.
A lot of that rely heavily on data. So you see clubs these days sign players because they've been monitoring them for weeks, for months, and they've seen their stats. They think, oh, this is good. They can sprint, they can do all sorts of things. They've taken tackles, they've defended, they've made number of saves, X number of saves, they've scored X number of goals. And for them to think, oh, this, when you play this together, you think, well, the data plays a quite big role in getting all of these together. And more importantly, I said, fan engagement. More and more fans know about teams, the more they get involved. The Stars, the Arsenal, all the big clubs, keen fan followers, football followers, ardent supporters of this club will tell you much about, who they're signing, what they're doing, and a lot of that is due to love the enlightenment we have. That's due to the data available for analysis, insights into some of these clubs. So that when you put all of that together, you can only play down the role of data analytics generally in sports and most importantly football.
Okay. I noticed most of the things you talked about were about statistics and how the different players you have or the ones you are trying to, like the coaches are trying to buy, are going to fit into the system.
Yeah.
But thinking about it, because this is what I have, the problem I have with statistics and data. For example, if someone could look at the number of goals scored by Lampard or another midfielder and tell me Lampard was better than Zidane, it does not make sense to me. So, does that mean, now, taking it out of that context, does that mean we do not need scouts anymore, or do scouts need to work hand in hand with data scientists to actually pick the right players for different clubs?
Yeah, I agree. That's not just the only criteria. There is no sports club or any football club now what it's on that would not have a data analyst. You need that in every club, not just one. You need them, a team of analysts that you need to work with as a scout. If I know you're going to scout me and you're coming to my match or game next week, I'm going to put on my best performance for you to just see me as a and that would have just been me trying to show that I'm good. but
Yeah.
we need that consistency. We need some analysis to see how you be consistent over time. So this is where insight makes sense, not
Yeah.
just one off. It's going to be over time.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a prediction into the future now about anything. So I'll need historical data to be able
Yeah.
to do that prediction accurately. So as a predictive analytics. So yeah, it's about working together. The scouts are still good. We still need them. So they see the players um, on real time.
Yeah.
See their mannerism. They see they compose themselves off and off the pitch. But in terms of all of that, so you still need some video analytics mostly, because that is what there are other forms of capturing this data. But I think video analytics seems to be the major one that most clubs use.
Yeah.
The scout would take the video clips or whatever he or she has got to the club to say, well, I've got this player, can you see him or her? And the analyst within the team do the analysis and say, well, we've seen this, can we see more?
Yeah.
Can we get more full coverage?
Yeah.
So, but coming back to your question about just looking at the stat to make a judgment, that's not enough.
Yeah.
You need that consistent, that consistent view of the player on and off in tough games, in simple games, to be able to then say, well, overall, you look at the headers, you look at the free kick, you look at some of the qualities that you want to compare, whether it's a midfielder, or defender, or goalkeeper, whatever the position they play, and then make a comparison to the. And this is even how some of these players are, priced, based on form and things like that. So yeah, you won't just base all your analysis
On just data.
but there are other things that goes along with it, and most importantly is the consistency that player and the contribution the player brings. In analysis, they call it the load of the player.
Yeah.
So, and that means what impact has that player as a person. If you take that player out of the team,
Yeah.
you analyze the team in general, will they still be able to make the impact that they're making? Will they still be beating the team that beating?
Yeah.
And you take a player like Messi, for instance, take Messi out of an Argentine national team or Barcelona when he was there, or PSG, and you try and quantify or analyze this load per game, and let's see what that will translate.
Yeah. But you know what you said. I agree in that aspect. I do a lot of predictions, and most rival fans, Arsenal fans, they don't like when I do this. But like when I look at a coach, for example, as if I've seen this particular coach has played Arsenal 5 times, or maybe let's say I look at a team and I know they have like a tough run coming up, and I see them just draw one match, I can tell going forward they're going to draw or lose. So it's statistics, it's data. It tells me already. I can predict what to expect.
Yeah.
So what are the important data and statistics or the key metrics like that are so important to football right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the key ones are the ones that you do first as your own team, and the ones you look at within the opponent's performances.
Yeah.
So you want to look at, for example, key passes.
Yeah.
How many passes have they made that are through? You want to see, for goalkeeper, you want to see how many saves and what is the percentage of saves in every half. The games that you've played with them either previously or their current position with other teams. You want to see a player, for example, individual players, keep map, how much area have they covered.
Yeah.
Minutes of play, so to see how effective. So where are the touches? You want to see if the midfielder, for instance, how many draws have they won, how many games have they won. You want to see shots on target, average player again. You want to see the number of assists from any of the player. And there are other metrics that you can look at to be able to make a judgment and say, well, we've seen them for 90 minutes. We've seen them that the first 45 minutes is their mainstream.
Yeah.
And after 60 minutes or whatever minutes they drop off, or identify the key player that needs to be tracked. And so these are all the metrics that you start keeping up. And you also look at the team average of the clean sheet in the last 4 games.
Yeah.
And some of these things, when you start putting them together, okay, they're going to go very hard on them in the first 10 minutes. That's all we can get them. Or I'm going to bring in my hitman or my super sub in the 70th, 80 minutes when I know he can play very well in the last 20 minutes and hit on the defense when I know they're going to be weak.
Yeah.
And all of this can only be informed by the analysis or the insight you have about your opponent. And importantly, that you also know about your own team. Or individual players, this is what you think they can do, and the analysis you have on that. So it's commonly used, and sometimes we see these games and we don't know what goes behind all the changes, substitutions. They don't just happen randomly. These are things that are well thought of as part of the strategy, the tactics for every match and every game. And coming back to what you just said, sometimes we do some of this analysis based on our own. There's no data backing it. It's just a case of, I understand this team, I've seen what they've done. In a way, we are looking at historical record, but we're not doing any methodology. We're not applying any methodology to it other than the fact that we play Arsenal and we've got Rashford, Man U as the current form compared to the defense in Arsenal team.
Yeah.
Sometimes this is just informed based on those simple ideas, but deep down, when we have more inside the data, we can do so many analysis and think, well, it might likely end up doing that if Rashford is informed, if this condition happens, and it could just happen that way. But like every other science, there are room for error.
Yeah.
No one size fits all methodology or approach for doing some of these analyses. So it's just a case of everything must be okay.
Yeah.
Your strategy, your tactics must all be fine, and the execution as well. So must be fine. Yeah, all of that has to come together. Otherwise, it will just mean nothing at all. Even if you have the best form of analysis before the game. So those things have to be right on match.
Yeah. In that context, I actually agree with you because I've been a Man United fan since 1998, and over time, I noticed Alex Ferguson makes his changes between 60 and 65 minutes. I don't think a lot of people noticed it, but that was a pattern for him. Yeah. And then if you look at this current manager now, he also has a pattern. I've noticed he only buys players he knows or he has seen before, he has worked with before.
Yes.
So to me, it's still data. I don't know.
It is all right.
Yeah, but to me, that's how I see it. It's still data. Yeah. And it actually tells me a lot about the person and how they are going to fare. So with the data you've seen so far so good, how do you think the teams in the Premier League are going to fare? Like, which of the teams do you think are going to finish top 4 based on the things you've seen just so far, like the things that you've seen around?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, we won't see much changes. You'll still see the likes of City, United, with probably Liverpool coming up. Top 14. Spurs, I'm not sure. They have not been informed. Chelsea, I'm not sure. Things have not been really going well with them. And this is how you look at it. You can only base things on current form. So 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 this is how it works. So if I'm a data scientist or a data analyst for any of the team, I've got my historical record for last season with some of the players in each team. So before I started making any inroad or any prediction further, other than maybe 3-4 games, I would like to see the first 3 games of this new season with the new managers coming in with their own strategy, with new players, and then I can then start making forecasts to say in 10 games, 15 games. There is no analyst that will come up and say by the end of this season, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because prediction is based on your methodology and how well you do it.
Yeah.
And the further the forecast, the likelihood that there will be errors.
Yeah.
So better forecasts are more accurate than when you have a longer forecast when, of course, you get new data, you put new data in, which is the raw data you're collecting, and then you use that to update your predictions. And that's how some of these algorithms work, especially the ones I know, for example, like data assimilation, which is one of the main techniques for prediction. For example, the weather prediction that you do is done by data assimilation. And what that means is that the more you do the prediction, the more you get your prediction, you add the raw data to it, and you do the prediction for it, and that enhances the prediction that yes, it's going to rain in the next few hours, compared to when you're telling me in 20 days. So the shorter forecasts are going to be more accurate than when you bring, and you can bring all of that, apply them into sports analytics or football analytics as well, to be able to make short forecasts based on fewer number of games and make it very more accurate than having to predict 20, 30 games ahead. So for me, you will still see not too much changes overall within the Premiership. I will still expect to see City either first or second. So Arsenal,
because to be fair, City to me is a well-run club. You can tell
yes.
it's organized.
Definitely.
But I'm sorry if I cut you short. You were trying to say something about Arsenal.
We're still coming back to the top four. I when Arsenal was top last season, I made jokes and I've been very blunt about they're not going to win, and that's because I just see the depth of the team. When they were able to quickly move at the time they were moving, because other teams at that time weren't doing well. So, and when the season gets on to a point where you can see changes being made by teams, and for example, City was one team that you see how they quickly came on winning matches after matches, and Arsenal wasn't doing well at that time. So they were able to come back and top the league. So yeah, that's the sort of thing I thought, well, eventually it did happen. So that wasn't based on any data analytics, it was just based on my intuition of the team and what I see of the players. They have the quality, and I thought, well, except if they can do this, and it didn't happen. They couldn't beat City, they couldn't beat some teams that they should have beaten to keep the top position, and that really affected the chances. So yeah, I'll still see City as a favorite going into the new season. Liverpool also has got an option. They've learned their lessons last season. Hopefully they get back on time, on track. We'll see how Spurs do this time. They seem to have, when you take some few players out of their team, you don't find any quality anymore. And Chelsea seems not to be doing well because of the club players are moving up, and we'll see how the rest goes. So Arsenal will definitely still be in the top four in my view, but not in terms of.
Oh, okay. But this thing you mentioned, last season, I said Arsenal. I predicted that Arsenal won't win the league, and everybody was against me. They were all fighting. They all Arsenal fans. But I based my own analysis on the fact that I've played football for a long time, and I've seen that it's just like in the family. Let's say something happens to the dad, who is the leader in the family. Something happens to the dad, and the dad dies. Because there's no leadership, it will affect the family. So I was trying to explain to them that once it gets to the point where they start having injuries, you're getting towards the end of the line, and you don't have enough leaders, it will affect the team. They thought I was lying. So, do, based based on my own analysis, do you think looking at number of leaders a football team has is part of data as well to actually know whether they're going to do well or not?
That might not be a very good metric or stat to follow. When you say leaders, maybe you're referring to the quality of the players. Yes, maybe. Leadership is another very subjective thing to look at when it comes to playing on the field. It might be a goalkeeper who is more motivated, a leadership role. It might be someone else. I would say the quality of the team all around will make it more different in terms of how they do well or how they perform. But yeah, maybe leadership wise, it might not be. For instance, look at City, and I'll come back to them. That's what they had over any other team. They had that advantage of having quality players.
Yeah.
Being tested in many games, World Cup, various competitions, and they showed in everything that they do. People, Rodri, De Bruyne, Gundogan, all of their key players. Look at them. So they've got something different that you can't find in most other teams, and that's what makes the difference between them and Arsenal. Just take one or two players out of Arsenal. Saka was doing well last season, playing a good run, and you can see at some point Gabriel, Jesus was scoring goals for short period when they were leading, and when that stopped happening, they couldn't get goals before anymore, and that was the difference. So they had all around good players, even on the bench. You bring in the young ones and still make an impact and get one when they need to. So these are things that I think any team who's going to win should have at all times. The bench must be solid, they have good tactics working for them, the players are in top form. So I'll still expect them to have that this season as well.
Oh, okay. But now a little bit away from the English Premier League.
Yeah.
So how do you think that we can use data and statistics to actually make Nigerian Premier League better or African league in general? But let's Nigerian Premier League as case in point here as a case study. So how do you think we can use data and statistics to make it more competitive and more fun?
I think the key point, the first thing we need to do is the fan base. In Africa, in Nigeria, we must do a reverse engineering of the data we have. So the fan base, what will attract, because that's how it all crumbled. I've watched games in Nigeria. I remember I watched the Leventis United with one Tunisian club then at the National Stadium in Soldier in Lagos.
Yeah.
So it was a full crowd, capacity, the stadium, and even at the Onicon Stadium, when stationary store, that was the team for Lagos State, where I come from. So we had full capacity every time when the stationary stores are playing the NET. And this was a small stadium that they weren't playing professional. I mean, they weren't playing any continental games at that time. So, and the only thing that people knew was every player. You can tell was, and then remember, we don't used to have names on the jersey number like what we have now. So every player, whatever jersey number they wear, before us at that time.
Yeah,
we coach with the players, we knew what they do on and off the pitch. Sometimes I see those players locally, when they move around. So we were attached to them because we had information about every player. We know quality, So we need to first bring that back. I sometimes, when I have my spare time, I used to watch the South African league. So you see some of the African players playing in their league. So they seem to have the best, or one of the best, if I'm saying,
Very organized, yeah.
They're very organized. So you see all the Orlando Pirates and or what
Kaiser Chiefs, Super Sport United, very organized.
even some Nigerian players play there. I've
Yeah,
seen games.
yeah,
So you can see that level of organization that they have. So for case of Nigeria and other African countries, they need to bring that back. And
yeah,
once you have more information, we know what the clubs are doing, and there's a depth of competitions too. So when you take the CAF African Champions League, and I also learned CAF is taking away one of the other competition now.
which one?
Is it the one? There's another one after the CAF Champions League. I'm not sure which.
Yeah,
So
I'm trying to remember the name. Yeah, it's like the UEFA Cup.
yeah, it's like it's like a version of it.
Yeah.
That's one the concept. Whether that's going to be a thing or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, not all the big clubs play there anymore. Unlike when Nigeria was very well represented by the Rangers in the olden days, Shooting Stars, now Eyimba recent, and they've dropped off. Eyimba before will get to the top four. You can guarantee that. When Enyama was keeper, when Adenuga was there,
yeah,
they are key players.
Muyi, Ogunyibi, and the rest of them.
Yeah, suddenly you just see that they go out in the first round or second round if they go far. So, and these are our top teams in the Nigerian national league. So it's something that you think,
but this is something that actually baffles me, because you mentioned the South African League is one of the most organized leagues in Africa. So I noticed leagues in North Africa, Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia are also organized.
Yes.
But for some reason, the leagues in West Africa, Cameroon, Ghana, Nigeria are not as organized as their contemporaries. So now I'm wondering if those leagues that are organized, I know you said you need to do a little bit of reverse data engineering for things to work. So do you think those leagues that are actually working are so organized with the fan base and everything, do you think data actually help them to get there? And what do you think? And do you think government involvement in the West African countries and their football organization, do you think that has a hand in drawing them back from using data to actually move forward as well?
Yeah, a combination of things. One thing is the fact that the infrastructure is there. If you look at what is significant or what is a common factor among the Northern American and other African teams and South African teams, you see they have one good thing, and that's the field, the pitch. The football stadiums, they're there for them. It's always, you watch these games and you think you're watching games in any club in Europe, or the way the quality of the pitches are, the players themselves. And this is one key thing about it. And that's the case. That's the opposite in West Africa. And that's the football powerhouse in Africa. So you look at now, the top African teams are from West Africa. And this is where the difference is. So you hardly tell. So and coming back to the idea of data being used, if the fan base knowledge is there, this is where the money comes. Government has always been funding football for many years that I've always known in Nigeria. But it got to the point government has other issues to deal with. There are other things. So the funding for government stopped, and that killed most of the sports.
Yeah.
The government can no longer fund the football teams or other sports teams like it used to, or the kind of level of funding that is required. So it eventually had impact. So this is where the fans come, other corporate bodies to come in, increase the fan base, put in the money, and when the fans go to work, you pay for it, and that brings money into it. So you don't want to go to a stadium where almost everywhere is empty. You only have one patch of the field. I was watching on channels every keep showing the Super 8, which is the Remo Stars. And some other players as well. And you look at the stadium and it's almost empty. And that's something that you don't normally see before. So these are the things we need to bring back. Data can be very, very useful if you use it well.
Yeah.
Only good starts for informing decisions. And when you have those data and you're not using them, So it won't make any money. You make them for decision making, fan base, you have data, the number of people that comes in, your players, and you go into your social media, you read out all the stats and information and get people interested in what exactly you're trying to do.
Yeah.
The information you give them once they get knowledge about it, they want to come and say things for themselves next time. And this is about what I think the clubs themselves can do in addition to the support that government can give them, making infrastructures available. So these are all the combination of things that should happen. They can't rely only on data because that is non-existent at the moment. And if they have, they're not using it. They're not using it to do what it should do. And we must borrow relief from here. If we look at the branding, the jerseys, so it's not something people want to wear. So it's not colorful, and they just get it. I saw most of the jerseys. Some of them are just like buying local jerseys here, and that should change.
But it's something I'm actually passionate about, and I think we all need maybe we should come together and partner and focus on one particular club and see how we can change Nigerian football.
Yeah, sure.
But away from football now, and I have another passion, which is science communication.
Okay.
Because I've gone to being a scientist, I've gone to conferences, I've seen how science is disseminated to the public, and sometimes I feel scientists use a lot of jargon.
Right? Yeah, definitely.
So how do you think we can actually simplify science to the non-scientific audience using data and statistics?
I think one thing that I must admit has changed over the years. I will give you a very quick one. I started my career here as a statistician in government.
Yeah.
One thing that was at the level of communication, like government communication, they were poorly communicated to the general public.
Yes.
And for me, I with my level of experience years back, I was quite amazed. Quite shocked that look, why do we need to? This is just like putting up a chart on an Excel sheet and trying to inform the public about it. You see a chart, for instance, I'll give you an example of a chart with no title, with no axis being named. From a data perspective, you think, well, what is the unit? If you're talking about numbers, like talking hundreds of or whatever. So you don't see titles, in there, you don't see axis being labeled, and you don't even see comments being made in terms of the commentary, what will tell you this and that. And I remember then also the Office for National Statistics, who happens to be the government body responsible for data publications and organizing statistics here in the UK for public interest and for government usage. So they formed a committee, and I was one of the pioneers of that committee. I remember that I used to work for the Ministry of Justice then. And what this committee was doing was that we were like a police for looking at government publications. All the stats that were published, the publications of government, our job was to go through them, recommendations on why they were poorly made, or if you have very good examples. Just point them out so that it can just be like a benchmark that will say, oh, we love this publication, and why can't we all follow this as government statisticians? So that was what the committee was all about. But over the years, I have seen some changes, and that also can be due to the fact that some of us are not realizing the challenge. There are issues communicating science, some, especially when it's a complex topics or complex issues, how to really simplify. And over the years also, I have seen people from different backgrounds bringing some ideas into it, especially the storytelling part. That's something I have also learned over the years. My approach has always been keep it simple. Don't avoid using, for example, you want to explain what correlation is to someone. If you're finding it hard to tell X and Y are correlated, so why not use the word related? whatever you can use to just show that you have something common. And most of the time, also, with the advent of new data visualization tools over the years, that has also helped.
Yeah.
With some of the open source software, that has always been helpful. With the likes of some software like Python, R, unlike the legacy ones that we always use, the SPSS, the SAS that we always use for some of these analyses.
Yeah.
And you must also, in practice, what I have seen is that, okay, and I'll give you my own profession as an example. As a data scientist, so I see quite a lot of people who have no knowledge of statistics.
Yeah.
Young was in the statistics, they're coming from a different background, and they're trying to explain statistical concepts.
Yeah.
What does regression analysis mean? If you see X and Y axis in regression, what does it mean? What is linear correlation? And some of them do struggle to try and explain some of the simple concepts. So what I've seen them do is just to put out the chart without making necessary commentary that goes along with it. And that has always been my worry as someone who is deeply involved in statistics. So this is where I come in most times to say, well, we can explain this in a very different way. Make the word simple. I know you can use the software as an expert, but you can translate what you're trying to do in a simplified and concise manner that the general public, the average person who has no technical or statistical knowledge, will be able to understand. And this is what I've been involved over the years. Even currently in the job that I do, try to tell colleagues that look, we can do this differently and explain this differently. Because we don't always come from the same background, it's always telling sometimes that this is the issue. So for me, I prefer to let my tell the story. Visualization has come to help in a lot of ways. Whether you're doing for research, or communicating science for research, or communicating science for work, or even personal use. And most importantly, when you're a government statistician or government analyst, the general public. So that is even more complex, to deal with, heterogeneous, in terms of the level of understanding of people. So you need to make it very simple, understand, keep your title. If you're trying to communicate a decision on analysis on, for instance, cattle being slaughtered in UK and farmers being paid if the cattle get a TB, the government pays the farmer, and they sort of kill those cattle so that they don't spread the TB across, amongst other farm animals. So these are some examples. There are so many that you can just say this is exactly the title. Say plotting your services against whatever amount of money, that's what we're trying to show. And visualization, most importantly, and I remember in my example I said earlier in terms of the government police job that I think was that one thing that we revolutionized was to try and put commentaries in the chat, not just on them to say this is what this does. Can you just put an arrow to say, well, you see this axis where they meet, or this line? Put a commentary in the chat itself to explain what and make yourself very explicit, and it does help. And you also try and gauge the level of feedback that people who use this stat come to ask you. So when you start getting some form of questions, well, I think they don't understand what we've done. And as an analyst or as a statistician, then you need to start worrying about what can I do to better that. So from publication after publication, you want to make sure you improve on that as much as possible and avoid the technical jargons that we also see in most cases. We used to use some of the technical terms that are more in tune to our profession, that we are comfortable with, without thinking about the end users. So if you're communicating this amongst your peers or the experts, they might be acceptable. But think about those who are not going to be, you know, in tune with what you're saying, you don't understand it, they come from a different background, and when you're trying to portray, give information to the public, different people with different level of understanding, students, general users. So you want to, as much as possible, just pass the message in a very simple manner. Use chats to communicate whatever complex issues you're trying to portray in a very simple way. I know sometimes it could be difficult. For example, you use the method and you want to try and explain what logistic regression is, for example, or multi-kernel simulation, or clustering algorithms, or any form of algorithm that you use, or machine learning. So it's always like a difficult thing, but the end result is what you should try and bring out more.
Yeah.
Even some of these machine learning algorithms that are like black box, that you cannot deep scientifically and with some good knowledge of statistics and advanced statistical understanding, you might not be able to explain them as a user yourself, not to talk of trying to now communicate it to other users. So yeah, it's very good and important that we try and stress and emphasize that the simpler we try to keep things. And even in some cases, and this is coming to my personal experience, what I have seen in practice is if you're going to do a simple analysis that you can just do with simple regression analysis. So I think people trying to use advanced technology, advanced machine learning algorithms, to multi-kernel, clustering, but you can actually get answers by just doing simple regression, or even trying to do correlation. That will help show the relationship in the data you have. You don't have to complicate it when it doesn't need to be complicated. So these are things I've seen, and they get things modeled up. The correlation might still be there, but the method wasn't right or isn't right. So you see most of this sometimes. And my approach to mitigate it is that it's, as much as I know it is science, it is something that is possible, it's doable, and we just need to keep it simple. Put in chat, put in comments, explain things in a very simple manner, and you get a feedback sometimes to see whether people really understand it. I have in the case, my 9-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
I sometimes say, do you understand this? I've done that quite a few times. Do you understand this? And say, oh, Dad, this is what I can see. And that will give me some understanding to say, well, I think I've done it well, or I just need to tweak something. If you can understand it at that level, that's for me a gauge, to judge whether it might be acceptable, will be well understood to many other people as well. So generally, the whole essence of science communication is to try and simplify advanced or complex statistical or science-related topics into simpler, simple topics that can just be easily understood by many people who are going to be using it. The majority of people who are using it. So that's my view about it. And if you're a storyteller, bring it into your knowledge of explaining things. If you are trying to inform decisions about a particular topic in science that is quite complicated, try and simplify what's the outcome.
Yeah.
What are you trying to communicate? Is it just saying X amount of money is being used to X amount of Y amount of data for another thing? So it's good to always speak those things and try and visualize them as much as possible. It does quite a lot.
Okay. That because of time, we're going to round off. So I'm going to, that leads me to my final question. So you mentioned you have a 9-year-old daughter. So imagine she she asks you uh, how do you think data can actually help her to understand football and science at the same time, like as a 9-year-old? So
Yeah,
what would be your answer?
yeah, that's a tough one. Yes,
Yeah,
I think what I would generally just show her is the visual.
yeah,
If I'm going to explain that to say visually, she must have those things to back up whatever I'm going to say. To see, well, you can see this one, or whatever I'm pointing at, or whatever I'm trying to show, to see what that means visually. Because for her at that age, and for most people that would deal with that within the audience, the visuals does help to give them a better understanding of what we're trying to communicate as analysts or as scientists. That has always been my view, and that's what I try to portray as much as possible. To say when you the ball and lucky she's now enjoying her football. So
yeah,
so when you want to score goals, this is how you do it. This is as much as possible, but practical with the examples you give and explain things in the context that you don't try and complicate it yourself.
yeah,
Because one thing I've always noticed and I've always found that we try to explain things we don't even have in-depth knowledge of as well. I gave an example earlier on about someone trying to use complicated algorithm to solve or explain a simple thing that you can just use a linear regression. And it's because of the understanding behind it. When we know what we're doing, it's easier for us to then use that to say, well, I know all these algorithms and I know what they're doing, I know the pros and cons, because there's no one size fits all method to solve all problems or solve the analysis. And I try to bring that into this context as well to say, well, see what you're saying now. And several times she will ask me questions. I'll say, okay, I don't want to explain it the way I understand it. It might be confusing. I'll just Google it,
yeah,
show the picture, so you see what this is. Then this is where my explanation comes in, so that it then makes it a lot easier. So she can view what she's looking at
yeah,
and then say, well, okay, oh, that's the goalkeeper. Yeah, the goalkeeper. It has to make sense.
yeah,
For her to score. And she just told me, oh, she wants to start scoring goals now. And when she came in one day, I said, well, that's good. If you,
yeah,
if you keep informing her, she get more knowledge about what she wants to do. I've watched her games. She said she wants to be a defender. She's quite tall amongst her peers. So the information I'm giving her and that she's also seeing exactly will shape her understanding of what she's trying to do when she plays and informing some of the things that she might also want to do when she's on her own. So for me to summarize that is about putting the information out in the simplest form. Most especially with visuals should come with a lot of visualization to help explain things. And there is not too much visual that you can put out. Sometimes even in the research world, you try to show events happening within a system by taking very many snapshots and comparing them. So in this case as well, it could just be a case of trying to apply the same logic and say, well, at this point, so this is where you are, this is your position, this is what you need to do. And the more information we have about what other teams are doing, the better for us to be able to know how to counter. So yeah, it could just be walking around some of the visuals, to explain things as you go along. So that'll be my approach.
yeah. But because I've always thought if there was a way that we can actually use science, like football, for example, to teach young kids like nervous system. You know how you can talk about the different neurons, how it goes from the midfield to the goalkeeper, and you
Yes.
can actually use that to explain it. So that's I've been thinking about it because it actually helps us to simplify science to these kids for them to understand what we are talking about. But anyway, on that note, thank you so much, Dr. Tunde, for coming on the show.
Yeah.
That's all the time we have for this week.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Arinze. It's a pleasure. I really enjoyed my first podcast. Go on.
No, definitely. As the time goes on, we'll do more and more. We'll
Oh,
talk more about
definitely.
it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks
All right.
for having me.